The thing is, many of us didn't just experience trauma, we built our lives around it. We learned how to stay small, how to stay quiet to avoid conflicts, how to stay hyper aware, how to stay strong even when we are tired. And those versions of us deserves compassion. Why? Simply because they helped us survive back in the days. Do you understand?
Welcome to the Chains and Choices podcast, breaking free from cycles and embracing new possibilities.
There comes a point in healing where something shifts quietly inside you. Not because the pain has disappeared, but because you begin to realize that your life cannot stay centered around what hurt you. You start to feel a gentle pull towards something more, more peace, more freedom, more alignment. And you know what? It's not loud, it's not dramatic. It's just this inner knowing that says, I don't want to keep living from the survival mode anymore. Welcome to the Chains and Choices podcast by Ngina, where we break cycles and embrace new possibilities. Today, we are talking about rewriting your story, about driving beyond childhood trauma, reclaiming your power, and rediscovering who you are outside what you survived back in the days. This episode is for the person who has done the work of awareness, has sat with their pain, and has started healing from the past and now feel ready to ask, who am I becoming beyond this? Rewriting your story does not mean erasing your past. It means refusing to let your past have the final say. For so long, trauma may have been the loudest voice in your life. It might have shaped how you see yourself, how you relate with others, how you make decisions, and how safe you feel in the world. But driving begins when you realize that trauma can explain your patterns without defining your identity. The thing is, many of us didn't just experience trauma, we built our lives around it. We learned how to stay small, how to stay quiet to avoid conflicts, how to stay hyper aware, how to stay strong even when we are tired. And those versions of us deserves compassion. Why? Simply because they helped us survive back in the days. Do you understand? But survival is not the same as living. Remember that. Survival is not the same as living. And thriving asks you a new question. Who am I when I am no longer operating from fear? Let me take you back to the second episode of series 1. The first step of healing is awareness. Once you are aware of what is making you have the same emotional feeling, what is making you stuck, and first remember that whatever is making you stuck right now is the same thing which helped you survive back then. So the first step in healing is awareness, and once you're aware of your traumas, of the patterns you keep repeating, different than despite the environment, despite how you change people, interact with the people, how you shrink yourself, how you talk to yourself, how you show up in the world, you start to question yourself. Why is this happening? Yes. And after you are aware, you realize of the patterns, you start asking yourself, who am I becoming? For so long, I've lived in the past, but now that I am aware of my patterns, what can I become? What am I becoming without operating from the past? Remember, guys, this is a safe space for everyone. So let me know down there in the chat what you think. What patterns are you trying to stop? What patterns are you trying to put an end to? Let me know. Let's talk. Okay, I said this is not about me telling a story, but this is me interacting with you. This is me trying to open your eyes, making you see that maybe you are living in your past, you are letting your past dictate your life, and that is not what I want. I want a shift, a positive shift in your life. Rewriting your story begins with choice. Small intentional choices that slowly move you out of old scripts. Choosing to post instead of reacting, choosing to speak instead of staying silent, or rather silencing yourself, choosing to rest without guilt, choosing relationship that feel safe, not just familiar. These choices may feel uncomfortable at first. That is one thing I'm gonna tell you for sure. Okay? Because your nervous system is used to what it knows. But discomfort does not always mean danger. Sometimes it means growth. And embrace it. Allow yourself to go through that discomfort, because through that discomfort, you're gonna change. You're gonna have a positive shift in your life. Okay? Why am I sounding like dictating what you're gonna do? But again, we are healing together. I just said this is a safe space for everyone to slow down, breathe, reflect, and make wise choices that can transform our lives. I said I don't want to meet a bitter parent in 2026. I mean, I'm here for you to help you heal. I don't want to meet a bitter friend in 2026. Let's change. Let's move out of our comfort zone. Actually, why am I smiling saying let's move out of our comfort zone? Because someone said to me yesterday, Gina, move out of your comfort zone. I thought for a minute and I was like, do you know the way I have sleepless nights? Do you know the way I normally cry myself to sleep? Do you know the way I always sit on my couch thinking, how can I be better? What can I do to change my lifestyle? How can I be of help to my family, to my friends, to my peers? Then he was like, no, that is not what I mean. He explained everything. He narrowed everything down to my understanding, and I was like, damn, god damn it. I need to move out of my comfort zone. And I was like, girl, wake up. Let's get the work done. Oh, I'm so motivated than never before. Because I used to feel like I'm doing a lot. I'm putting in too much work. But yo, it was until yesterday I was like, yeah, been dwelling in my comfort zone for so long. But you know what? We are changing that. So from today henceforth, I'm on the gear, the driver's gear. Hmm? Ready to rewrite my story. Oh God. There's also an identity shift that happens here. Trauma often convinces us that we are so broken, too much, or maybe not enough. It makes us cling to labels that were never ours to carry in the first place. You have to understand that. Okay? Rewriting your story means questioning those beliefs, asking yourself, is this who I truly am? Or is this who I became to survive? And then slowly giving yourself permission to explore who you are beyond those roles. The moment you're aware of your past trauma, the moment you're aware of your patterns, you begin to question yourself. Is this who I truly am? Is this the person I was born to be? Am I living in survival mode, or am I living my purpose? Do you understand? Driving beyond trauma also means learning to trust yourself again. Trauma can disconnect you from your intuition, making you doubt your choices or constantly seek external validation. And guys, I'll pause and give a personal story. It's personal in the way that I interacted with someone who never believes in themselves. Like, let me give you a good example. You're just dressing up to step outside, and then you put on your first dress, and then you're like, you look yourself in the mirror and you're like, no, this doesn't look good. How will people see me? Like, how will I be on the outside? When I step outside, how will people see me? And then you end up taking a photo of yourself, sending it to your friends, not one, not two, just to confirm. And maybe you find that your friends are like, yeah, you look so good, nini, nini, nini. But again, you're like, no, they don't understand. I know I don't look good. That is a good example. Anyway, back to the story I was about to give. I had this person in my life. She never believed in herself. Whenever you tell her, oh, you are doing so good, oh, keep going, they're like, no, how? Ona hii, like, you understand? Ule mtu tu hatakosa ka kitu ya kulalamika, ule mtu hatakosa ka kitu ya kusema si kazuri. And let me tell you something, reclaiming your power looks like rebuilding that trust, honoring your feelings, respecting your boundaries, and believing that you are capable of making decisions that serve you. You don't have to operate on anyone's opinion. You don't have to operate on anyone's validation. Be you. Be authentically yourself. Are you getting my point? Let me tell you guys, ever since I was told to get out of my comfort zone, I feel like I'm so loud. I'm like, hey, Kira, this is the spirit I want. Anyways, let me repeat myself. Reclaiming your power looks like rebuilding that trust with yourself, like honoring your feelings, respecting your boundaries, and believing that you're capable of making decisions that serve you. Okay? You may notice that as you rewrite your story, some things no longer fit. You begin to think of it this way: the things that helped me survive back then are now limiting me. Certain relationships may feel misaligned. Certain environments may feel heavy for you. Certain versions of yourself may need to be released. This can feel lonely, but it's also a sign of growth, not weakness or pride. No, this is a sign of growth. You're not losing yourself, you're shedding what no longer belongs to you. That's why I normally tell my peers, my friends, my schoolmates, like, whenever you feel that Gina is too much for you, feel free to cut me off. You don't have to talk to me daily. You don't have to call me. We don't have to be friends. We can remain to be classmates, churchmates, village mates, but we don't have to be friends. Because let me tell you something. For the years, a past few years, I've dealt with traumatic friendship relations. Like, what am I saying? What am I saying? I've held, or rather, dealt with trauma from friendship. You're being nice, genuine to someone, but they're not reciprocating that. So you find yourself questioning yourself, like always being the fixer, the overthinker, the listener, that one who cares and some stuff. I'm not saying like all my friendship were bad. No, like I'm not the villain in my story. I'm just giving a part of it. I'm just saying a part of it. Friendship is a good thing. That's why I say this here. I'm so open for intentional, genuine, supportive, prayerful friends. Hmm? I'm looking so I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait to see what the universe has in store for me, because I normally ask everything that I need, and I'm like, universe, I know you're not on a budget. Do this for me. And let me tell you guys, so far so good. I can't complain. Anyways, you may notice that as you rewrite your story, something no longer serve you. Some friendship, like, it's okay to outgrow people. It's okay to outgrow places. That is not a sign of weakness, but that a sign of growth. Because if it doesn't serve a purpose in your life, why do you have it? Like, why do you have that person in your circle? If they are mentally draining you, why do you have them? Why do you still talk to them? Why do you have them in your life? I mean, cut them off. Cut them off. You can do it silently. It doesn't have to be dramatic. You can just choose to take a step back and stay in your lane. Simple. Another thing is that thriving is not about becoming someone perfect or fearless. It's about becoming present. It's about responding instead of reacting. It's about choosing yourself even when it's uncomfortable. It's about allowing joy without waiting for others' shoe to drop. And yes, there will still be moments where the past taps on your shoulder, but it's no longer gets to drive the car. Do you understand? Acha niseme kwa Kiswahili. Kuna muda utakuwa tu umekaa, maybe you're in your safe space, unajiambia this is the most healed version of Ngina. But again, a past, something you did in the past, something you learned from the past, taps you on your shoulder like, hey, bestie, I'm here. You remember in 2020, we used to do this and this. But the thing is, right now in 2026, you already outgrown that particular shirt you did way back in 2020. But it comes knocking on your door, tapping on your shoulder so gently, so that maybe you can go back to that or relive that moment once again. But the thing is, you are on your healing journey, you are thriving, you are rewriting your story. So, yes, you can take a pause and listen, think down the moment, think down the memory, but don't allow the memory to take your driver's seat. Remember, you are the author of your story. You are exactly who you believe you are. How you see yourself before you leave your house is exactly how other people gonna see you out there. How you feel about your dressing before you leave the house is how others gonna see you exactly the same way you felt about yourself. Because tell me, if you're feeling uncomfortable in your dressing and you step out there and someone compliments your dressing, trust you me, that compliment will not get to you, because for one, it's positive, but what you feel inside you is negative. So you're gonna dwell right on whatever feeling you had the first time you put on that particular outfit. Like, be your own cheerleader. One thing I normally admire about myself is this: whenever I'm going through something, I allow myself to go through it. Like, deep down, I want to embrace each and every thought, each and every feeling that comes up from that particular situation. And then as I think down the notes, I come up with solutions, knowing this is exactly the next step I'm going to make, and this is what I'm going to leave behind. I'm always my own cheerleader. Like, you'll find me crying myself to sleep simply because the way I responded to something, I felt it's not a reaction from born from that particular moment, but from something, a traumatic event in my life, from my past life that I'm reliving right now. And then I'm like, you're wise, you're loved, you're able, you're whatever you believe you are. Keep going, keep being authentically yourself. And that is exactly the shift I want to send your way. That is exactly the shift I'm sending your way. Because as I said, here in the Chains and Choices podcast is a safe space for you to slow down, reflect, slow down, you reflect, you reset, and then make wise choices that will transform your life positively. Positively. The word is positively. Okay? Guys, I want to say this gently. I mean, so gently, because it matters. You're allowed to want more than healing. Yes, yes, you. You're allowed to want more than healing. You're allowed to want more fulfillment, more peace, more joy, more love, more creativity, and more ease. Because healing opens the door, but thriving is what happens when you walk through it. Yes, there's no problem with you wanting more. Yes, you understand? Clock that. Clock that. And guys, if you're listening to this and feeling both excited and afraid, it's okay. It's absolutely okay. Growth often feels like that. Trust me, if you're feeling some kind of excited, afraid, like you're having those contradicting thoughts, it's absolutely okay, because growth often feels like that. You're on the right path. You are stepping into unfamiliar territory. And unfamiliar does not mean unsafe, it means new. Rebrand. What I'm gonna say, rebrand. And as we come toward the end of this episode, I want you to take a moment and acknowledge how far you've come. Because the awareness, the reflection, the courage to look inward yourself and ask yourself uncomfortable questions, the willingness to choose differently, none of that is small. Okay? None of that is small. Let me clap for you for choosing to be better. One, two, three. That's for you. Thank you so much for allowing yourself to be aware, to reflect, the courage to look inward and ask yourself the most uncomfortable questions, because none of that is easy and none of that is small. Rewriting your story is not a single decision, it's a daily practice, a commitment to live with intention instead of antipilot, instead of autopilot. Why did I just say antipilot? Autopilot, moving from left, right, just following the waves. Mhm. You understand? It's a promise to yourself that you will no longer abandon who you are becoming to protect who you used to be. Oh yeah, move, wake up, move out of that comfort zone, move out of that survival mode. Don't let your past, don't let what you survive define your identity. Today is such a good day. Today is such a good day. I feel like I wanna preach, but I'm not here to preach. I wanna tell you that rewriting your story is not a single decision. It's a daily practice, a commitment to live with intention instead of autopilot, a promise to yourself that you will no longer abandon who you're becoming to protect who you used to be. The thing is, you're moving out of survival mode and start living with purpose, on purpose. I normally, sometimes when I'm praying, or rather, sometimes when I'm telling myself positive affirmations, I'm always like, Ngina, we are moving on purpose. Ngina, we are taking a walk of purpose. We are walking on to our purpose gracefully. God's grace is before me, in me, besides me, and behind me. So this is a walk of faith, a walk of purpose. Somebody say amen. Anyways, and before we close, I want to say this clearly. This episode, this particular episode of rewriting your story, driving beyond your childhood trauma, is the end of a series 2. This takes us to the end of series 2. Okay? Series 1 was about foundation and the purpose of the story. It has 4 episodes. Series 2 is everything, understanding everything about childhood trauma. Yes, we understood, defined it, went through how childhood trauma shows up in our relationship, how you can stop that, healing techniques like I talked about, journaling, therapy, and so on. And now this is rewriting our story, simply driving beyond that trauma. And this takes us to the last episode of series 2. This series has been about understanding childhood trauma, as I have said, tracing the roots of our pain, learning how it shows up in our lives, and gently beginning the work of healing. If you've been here from the beginning, thank you so much for staying. If you joined somewhere else in between along the way, I'm glad you found your way here, because this is a safe space for you to slow down, reflect, and choose wisely ways that we can transform our lives. Remember, I said I don't want to meet a bitter parent in 2026. I don't want to meet a bitter friend in 2026. We are rewriting our stories, living beyond childhood trauma, living beyond our survival mode, and walking into our purpose, living with purpose, living on our lives' purpose. Guys, I think that the end of today's episode and end of series 2. So we'll meet in series 3, where we'll talk about love and relationships. I hope you'll be here, you'll subscribe, turn on the notification bell so that we can walk the journey together. So far, so good. It's been 2 good, nice series carrying very powerful conversations. Like, I'm celebrating myself, like, Ngina. You started this with doubt and now you're doing it. You're impacting lives. Oh my goodness. Oof. Thanks to me for believing in myself. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for choosing growth. Thank you so much for allowing yourself to imagine a life beyond survive. This is the Chains and Choices podcast by your mighty Gina, where we break cycles and embrace new possibilities. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. Bye.